Hello, welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl. We're in Warhammer the Old World. We're looking at the Dwarfen Mountain Holds faction focus. We've been through pretty much the entire faction army list, units, book, everything, and we've talked about everything individually. And I think it'd be nice to do something a little bit different, which is where we start to look at comparing the units, stat-wise, points-wise, seeing how they stack up, seeing who's best where, kind of looking at their roles and doing that in detail, but with the numbers in front of us. So first up, we're looking at characters. So here we have a handy little table. So you can see here we've got the stat line, we've got the best armor save they can achieve, and we've got where they rank in terms of points. So just to be clear, this is a ranking. I'm not listing the points values individually here. So we've got all the different characters there. So if we look at the king has joint top on the weapon skill, high toughness. Most of the characters in dwarves have pretty high toughness, but it's up there. Has one of the three that have the highest wounds, which are pretty much all the lords have 3 wounds. All the heroes have 2 wounds, as you might expect. Initiative is good, but not the best. It's up at the higher end of dwarves. There aren't many dwarves that have above initiative 3, so having initiative 4, pretty good. Though when you compare that to other factions, it's still not that high. 4 attacks, though, which make it joint top against the other melee lord. Leadership of 10. All dwarves have pretty high leadership, but leadership of 10 is just that one extra. And it can get a 3+ armor save. Though it is the second highest in terms of points cost overall. Thane, in terms of heroes, is kind of a bit of a mid-range hero. It's not quite as good as the Dragon Slayer. It's got the toughness. It's got pretty decent weapon skill. But that 2 wounds is kind of the thing that sticks out. But I'd say all the heroes have that, and the 3 attacks. So the Thane, I still when you see it, it is the second cheapest of all of the characters. So Thane's not expensive. But when you make him a battle standard bearer, that's plus 25 points. And then you add the standard runes to that, and that's going to really push him up. So the Thane can get really expensive quite quickly, but without having the best stat line. So that's why for me, really using him and tooling him up as a character killer, I just still think he's better off as a battle standard bearer. And if you want to make a real damage dealing character, you go with the Slayers or the King. And kit them out that way. Though I still think the King has more value as just keeping him relatively, straight and utilising his buffs and that he gives to the units, in a big unit of hammerers or something like that. The Rune Lord is actually surprisingly good. Most wizards, they're not known for having their really high stat lines. You can see that from the Runesmith, which kind of has a more typical wizard profile for a faction. Wizard profile is generally pretty low in terms of stats, but the Rune Lord, he's third most expensive, so he's not crazy expensive compared to the others on the list. And he's not bad. He's got a weapon skill of 6. He's got 3 wounds. He's got 3 attacks. Initiative is only 3, which is of course the little bit of a downside for him. So he's not going to be your go-to melee, but he's not going to be the worst wizard in combat by any stretch, and he's not really a wizard in that regard. So, he's got 3+ armor save. So, in terms of someone that's going to be able to get forwards, get in range of enemy wizards, to do dispels at level 2 and so on, actually, you can put him in a combat unit and he can still do some reasonable stuff with that. So, yeah, the Rune Lord still pretty nice. The Demon Slayer is, that's the ultimate melee character. You can see that stats. He's got the weapon skill, he's got the initiative of 5, giving him the highest initiative of all of the dwarf units. He's got the 4 attacks. Bearing in mind, you can give an additional hand weapon on that as well. So you could take him to 5 attacks. On that initiative 5, which is really nice. He is, however, the most expensive of the lords. and he has no armor save. That really concerns me. The fact when you have that together, you've got the worst possible save of all the lords and heroes, and at the same time, he's also the most expensive. So the chance to lose him is incredibly high. Incredibly high. Yes, you can put him in a unit of other Slayers. No Slayers are going to get chopped apart, but you know he still needs that unit with him. You know, even with 5 attacks at strength 4. You know, he's still not going to be, you know, and you can obviously give him some runes to buff him and everything, but that still is I think the biggest concern for me there is that lack of armor save versus the cost. And you can see that even with the hero. The hero still sits in number 4, making him the most expensive of all the hero level characters. And again, with no armor save. So these guys, they're not cheap, but it's going to be tough to keep them alive. Unless you put them in a very big unit of Slayers. And again, do you really want to put your points all into that? I think, for me personally, there are better options. But I know there's a lot of people out there that love the Slayers, love the Slayer theme, love creating full Slayer armies, and absolutely go for it. It's just really not for me. And I think when you look at the stats here, you can kind of see how that pans out. Now, the Engineer is the one that sticks out the most, because look at the reds you see on the Engineer there. Across the board. Look, he's not great in melee. He's still got weapon skill 4, but he's a character, right? He's not great in melee. He's not got that good weapon skill. He's only got 2 attacks, which put him joint last with the Runesmith. He's got initiative of 2, joint last with the Runesmith. So like the Runesmith, the Engineer is very much that support character. And you can see here that the stats make clear as in terms of support character. The upside with the Engineer is how cheap they are. Engineer is incredibly cheap, and they give really good value to the war machines. So, absolutely support character. You're going to keep him in the back line, probably with your war machines, or at a pinch, maybe with some quarrelers giving him the bonus. But the points cost is there to match. So, overall, you can, for me, that, you know, while there's lots of reds on the Engineer, it's what they do. And how that makes them stick out as a support character, but a cheap support character. The Runesmith, a little bit more expensive. You know, Runesmith is actually more expensive than the Thane, whereas the King is more expensive than the Rune Lord. So, you know, especially given like the Thane gives you access to hammerers and stuff like that as well. So, overall, the Runesmith is okay if you're wanting to add just that extra bit of dispel. You know, spread it around the board, some redundancy, take a Rune Lord and a Runesmith, for example, or an Anvil of Doom and a Runesmith. But overall, the Runesmiths, I kind of feel like they're only okay compared to the Rune Lord and what the Rune Lord can do. You know, and for the points cost, and the Slayers, you know, as I said, it's the cost of points with no durability at all. You know, it's still only a toughness 5 3 wound model, right, and a toughness 5 2 wound model. Well, you know, you could lose those guys pretty quickly to a round of shooting when they're out on their own. So, and you know, and initiative 5 is not bad, initiative 4 is not bad, but if you're going up in a duel, enemy characters that are going into duels and looking for duels are going to be tough as nails. So you'd really want to make the use of that always strikes first with those guys if you're going to take them. So there you go. That gives you a bit of a quick look into the character comparison as who's got the best weapon skill and who's got the best toughness, wounds, attacks, leadership, that sort of thing, and where they sit then in terms of points cost. I hope it was useful. I think we'll get more value overall out of the individual like infantry units and so on, because you tend to find with the characters there's quite a lot of similar stats. You know, there's not too much between them, and there's definitely, I can see there seems to be a bit of a stat squish in Warhammer the Old World, where you know the stats change between characters is like, you know, one here, one there. There doesn't seem to be any sort of major outliers right now. Certainly in the Dwarfen character list, we'll see as we get into the other factions, as we intend to do this for every faction as we go through. I hope you find this useful. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the character comparison. Though I'd say I do think we'll get more when we look at the individual sort of infantry units and so on. If you liked it, though, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you want to see more content, please hit that subscribe button. It's free for you to do. It's a big deal for me, so thank you for that in advance, and thank you to all those who are already subscribed. You've been watching The Ghost Down. Next up, we're going to take a look at that melee infantry comparison table and see how they stack up.